Coordinate geometry is a really a problem-solving area. So it's a topic in maths that you are given an awful lot of information in the log tables. So it's not about getting a formula and filling it in. It's about deciding which formula to pick, persevering even if there is you don't know if you're doing it right or wrong. Sometimes and just noticing that if there's one thing missing in a question, that's usually not a problem. It's, you know, if I pick a root and I have 2 or 3 or too many things missing that I can't figure out, that maybe I've gone down the wrong route. So you'll probably learn a lot about yourself, you know, as to how much of a problem solver you are. You know, do you give up too easy by challenging yourself to questions on this topic? The first thing though that you have to be able to use is your log tables, or else you're going to be at a massive disadvantage. You're just going to be at a massive disadvantage to everybody else if you don't understand how to use your log tables. So it should explain itself very clearly. You should be used to the slope formula, the distance formula, midpoint formula. Now you have 2 ways of doing the equation of a line. So if you have the slope and a point on the line, you'd be using this one. And, you know, if you have the slope and now C for the line is the y-intercept. So if you turn to a different page, or, you know, even over here with the circle and see a C, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's the y-intercept. So all of this stuff is to do with the line, and the equation of a line. So just be careful with that. Don't assume just because you see a C somewhere else in another page that it's anything to do with the line. So they're all your junior cert ones, and you want to have a prior knowledge, like a junior cert base for your leaving cert stuff, because you do get asked junior cert questions at leaving cert. So your knowledge from junior cert is not only to be able to use these, but are you able to plot and read points on your plane? Are you able to not only use the slope formula to find the slope by having enough points, but can you use rise over run? Can you find it, you know, here if you are given the equation by using y equals mx plus c and putting it in that format? Are you aware that if we were looking at the slope of a line and you talked about the rise and the run, that you've created a right angle? Now, if we were talking about this angle here and this was a trigonometry question, you wouldn't call it the rise, you'd call it the opposite. You wouldn't call it the run, you'd call it the adjacent. So rise over run is the exact same as opposite over adjacent, which is the exact same as the tan of the angle. So if you're ever given this angle, then you can just get the tan. So throw into your calculator tan of the angle. So let's say that was 45. So you throw in tan 45 and you get a slope of 1. So it's just having your junior cert knowledge. Do you know that parallel lines have the same slope? Do you know that perpendicular lines have opposite slopes? So if you know the slope of one line is minus a third, then a line perpendicular to that will have a slope of plus 3 over 1, or plus 3, obviously, when you simplify that. A line that has a slope of 5 will have, so 5 is the same as, you know, a plus 5 over 1. So what's the perpendicular line slope going to be? It's going to be a minus 1 over 5. Are you aware of those things? Are you aware that when you multiply the slopes of opposite lines that you get minus 1? That's maybe not necessarily anything very interesting, but it does happen every time you multiply the slopes of perpendicular lines, you get minus 1. So you can always test if if two lines are perpendicular by checking if they have a slope of -1. Like in trigonometry, or in coordinate geometry, you can see that triangles turn up all the time. Are you able to find the area of a triangle using your junior cert method, like half base by perpendicular height? All these things link in from other topics. Are you able to find out where something cuts the x-axis? So if something cuts the x-axis, what do all these things have in common? It's always going to be somewhere on the x, and the y coordinate is always going to be 0. So how do you find out where something cuts the x-axis? You let the y be 0. How do you find out where something cuts the y-axis? You let the x be 0. How do you find the point of intersection between two lines? So if you're given two lines, how do you find the point of intersection between them? You use your simultaneous equations. Now, they wouldn't always look like this. They might be moved around a little bit, like 2x plus y minus 10 equals 0, x minus y minus 8 equals 0. And so they might be set up to look like what you're used to seeing in your way of solving simultaneous equations. But how do you find the point of intersection between two lines? It's going to be simultaneous equations. So your basic junior cert knowledge and being able to use your log tables is really important. And it goes on to be important in the circle. Like, a circle is a line. So if you want to find out the point of intersection, you know, between a circle and a line, you can use your simultaneous equations. If you want to find out where a circle cuts the x-axis, you let the y be 0. If you want to find out where a circle cuts the y-axis, you let the x be 0. A lot of it doesn't change because the circle is still a line. Okay, it's a different shaped line. It's not a straight line, but a lot of the properties are the same. So if you want to check your junior cert knowledge and make sure that it's up to scratch, you can try some of these questions. Now, these are all leaving cert questions. You'll notice that mostly they're part A's, except for this here. Part A, B and C were junior cert. And here's a sample paper, so you might find it more difficult to get your hands on this one, but you can just type it into online and get it. So all of these are leaving cert questions, but they're all based on your junior cert knowledge that I just spoke about. So if I was revising this, maybe the first place I'd start is with these questions and make sure I'm definitely happy with my junior cert information.